Hi everyone, my name is Annie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Star Trek Deep Space Nine and my 7 favorite episodes of the show. I won't be doing a where to begin for Deep Space Nine because I feel like you need to watch the show in order to really understand all the storylines. So instead I thought I would just talk about my favorite episodes because this is such a great show and it's very different from the other Star Trek shows, especially because we had only seen original series and Next Generation when Deep Space Nine started coming out. So it really changed a lot of what Star Trek was, and it added a lot to it too, and it has some amazing characters and some brilliant episodes. So I'm excited to share my favorites with you, and hopefully you go back and rewatch or watch them for the first time if you've never seen them. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first episode I'm going to be talking about is Season 1, Episode 18, and it's called Duet. This episode has a very basic storyline. It starts with a Cardassian being brought onto the station because he needs treatment for a disease. And for people who don't know, the Cardassians, they are a species that occupied Bajor for many years and committed horrible crimes against the population of Bajor, and Kira was part of the people that freed Bajor from the occupation. But when Major Kira finds out that he is a Cardassian and has disease, she says that must mean that he was working in a Bajoran labor camp where horrible atrocities were committed against the Bajorans in the time of the occupation. So they have him arrested and they try to figure out his identity. And the episode consists of Major Kira talking to this man who she doesn't know whether or not he committed the horrible things that were going on in the labor camps. It takes a deep dive into Major Kira's past and the horrors of the Cardassian occupation of Bajor. And like the name of the episode says, it is a duet between Major Kira and this Cardassian man, and it really explores that horrible past of Cardassia and shows that the trauma persists on both sides, not only with the Bajorans, but with the Cardassians who were there. And I highly recommend this episode. It's brilliant writing, and I think it sets the tone for the rest of the Deep Space Nine series. So number 2 on my list is The Magnificent Ferengi, which is Season 6, Episode 10. I just have to come out and say Quark might be my favorite character in Deep Space Nine. I absolutely love Quark, and I love the Ferengi, and they all feature in this episode as the title may suggest. And the story goes that Quark's mother was kidnapped by the Dominion, and they want to exchange her for another prisoner. So Quark and Rom and Nog, they assemble a team of 6 Ferengi, the Magnificent Ferengi, to go rescue Moogie, Quark's mother. And Moogie is just an icon, so I love any episode that she's in. But this one is just so funny, and the tone of the episode is very different. It obviously, the title suggests, pays homage to a Western, and it also has a little bit of Weekend at Bernie's there, and is just a very fun episode, and I love it. I love anything with Quark in it, so I had to pick at least one episode that featured Quark, because he's just the best. So number 3 on my list is Far Beyond the Stars, which is Season 6, Episode 13. And what can I say about this episode? I think it might be on my list of favorite Star Trek episodes of all time, not just Deep Space Nine. It's amazing. If you haven't seen it, please go see it. Okay, yeah, now I'm gonna talk about it. The episode starts at the station where Sisko is very stressed with all the war and everything that's going on, and he starts seeing these people that look like they're from the 20th century, and then he collapses and goes into a coma. He wakes up and he is this writer, Benny, who is working in a magazine that publishes science fiction stories in the probably 1950s, that's my guess. And in his office are a bunch of other writers who also do science fiction stories, and he's asked to write a story based on a drawing of the station that is Deep Space Nine. So Benny goes home and starts getting these ideas of Deep Space Nine and writes the story of a black captain commanding the station. But then when he goes back with the story, while everyone loves it, the head editor says that they can't publish a story with a black captain as the lead. I don't want to talk too much about the plot, because if you haven't seen this episode, I would highly recommend it. But it deals with issues of racism, it deals with issues of police brutality, and although it was made over 20 years ago, I think everyone should go back and watch that episode. It's one of those episodes of Star Trek that really maintains its strength and the message keeps going strong. And Avery Brooks gives an amazing performance in this episode.
You can deny me all you want, but you cannot deny Ben Sisko exists. That future, that space station, all those people, they exist in here.
And I think this episode really gets to the core of what Star Trek really is, and it's about that dream of a better future that we can achieve as humanity. And apart from all the science fiction things, it's really about that utopian future where that anyone can dream about it. Anyone can dream about Star Trek. This episode, I love Far Beyond the Stars. It's definitely in my top Star Trek episodes of all time. So now turning to a more lighthearted episode, number 4 on my list is Trials and Tribulations, and that is season 5, episode 6. And I think this episode is probably a favorite of many Star Trek fans because it is the best example of fan service done right. So in this episode, the crew of Deep Space Nine travels back in time to the time and place where the episode Troubles with Tribbles took place, and they have to stop a bomb from setting off and killing Captain Kirk. It's such a brilliant idea, and so we see them interacting with Captain Kirk, with Spock, and living in that original series world, and wearing the uniforms, and it's just so well done. This could have been a very bad fan service episode where it's shoved in your face, like many examples that are currently being made right now. It is done so well because you really feel like you're in the original series world and interacting with those characters. You're immersed in that 60s aesthetic, but you still follow the Deep Space Nine characters. So I love this episode, and I think any fan of the original series would love it too. So I can't speak highly enough about it. I love it. So episode 5 on my list is Take Me Out to the Holosuite, season 7, episode 4. I know it's probably not on the list of best episodes, but I just love it. And the story goes that a Vulcan captain that Sisko went to the academy with comes to Deep Space Nine and challenges Sisko to a baseball match. His crew, which is an entirely Vulcan crew, against the crew of DS9. And Sisko takes on the challenge not only because he loves baseball, but because this Vulcan captain was really not nice to him in the past, let's just say. He's been teasing him about how humanity is not as superior as Vulcans because of their emotions. He says that emotions are a hindrance, and Sisko is a very emotional man and he wants to prove him wrong. So he assembles the senior crew of Deep Space Nine plus Rom, Lita, and Quark and makes a baseball team. This is just a breath of fresh air in season 7 because while it's an amazing season, it is very heavy and about the war and about pain, and this episode is about a baseball game. But it's more than that. It's an amazing ensemble episode because literally all the characters that we know in the station come together to play this game. Yeah, it's just a great ensemble episode because I think Star Trek really is only as good as its crew, and the way that the crew interacts together is just, it makes for an amazing episode. And it's exciting, it's a baseball game. So yeah, I love that episode and I highly recommend it. So number 6 on my list is The Visitor, which is season 4, episode 2. This episode is also very hard to put into words, but that's what I'm here for today. So it tells the story of Jake Sisko, Captain Sisko's son, and it starts with him as a very old man telling the story about why he stopped writing after he was 40. And he says that it was because his father died when he was 18. But he didn't really die. He kept coming back from time to time, sometimes 10 years, sometimes 20 years in between appearances. But his father, Captain Sisko, was alive but trapped in another time phase. It shows Jake going through the years of his life and growing old, with his father only appearing for seconds at a time. And I think this episode is a beautiful portrayal of a father-son relationship. I think it's just a beautiful piece of science fiction in general, because it is a father-son story but told through the lens of science fiction. And I think those are the best science fiction stories, when they really get that emotional grip over you despite of all the technology that's involved. And I just love seeing Jake in the spotlight of this episode. Jake is a great character too, and sometimes he doesn't show up very often because he's not a part of the crew. And it's just a great story, it makes me cry. So yeah, I highly recommend this episode. And last but certainly not least, number 7 on my list is In the Pale Moonlight, which is season 6, episode 19. I remember watching this episode for the first time and thinking, wow, it kind of changes the game of Star Trek. I think it cements the darker tone that the 7th season of the show was gonna take. And I think it has a great debate of morality of Starfleet, because Starfleet is usually portrayed as this pristine institution that is only there to help. This episode goes deeper than that, and I think this is dark Trek done right. It's not explosions and murders. I think this episode shows how you can have a more subtle and nuanced plot in Star Trek without making it dark. This episode happens after the Dominion War really has gotten going and the Federation's taking heavy casualties, and Captain Sisko sees that the only way they will have a chance to fight back is if the Romulan Empire joins them against the Dominion. He has to find a way to convince the Romulan Empire to join their cause, whatever it takes really, and that whatever it takes really gets to Captain Sisko, because what is he gonna do? Things that go against his moral code and against Starfleet's and the Federation's moral code in order to save the Federation. And it also features Garak, who I haven't mentioned yet, but Garak is such a great character. He grows a lot in the seasons, and if you know the show, you know that Garak isn't the most pristine, shall we say, person when it comes to morality, but it really shows that sometimes you need that attitude in order to get results. And I really can't do it justice by talking about it, so just go watch this episode. It's amazing. So yeah, these are 7 episodes of Deep Space Nine that I consider to be some of my favorites. There are so many good episodes in this show, so I picked 7 because I thought it'd be a good number. There are 7 seasons. I couldn't pick just 5. So what are your favorite Deep Space Nine episodes? I would love to hear that. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please feel free to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you here. And again, thank you so much for watching.